Hello everyone, welcome to Radiology cases tutorial. Today we are going to discuss the ultrasound examination guidelines during the first trimester. First of all, we are going to discuss the early intrauterine gestational sac. Now here we can see this one is a longitudinal transvaginal image of the uterus, and it shows a rounded fluid filled collection with a thick echogenic rim, and it is present in the endometrial cavity. In the specific settings in which the pregnancy test results are positive, there are no ultrasound signs of ectopic pregnancy, and a round, small, fluid-filled collection with well-defined echogenic rim is seen immediately adjacent to the uterine cavity. This fluid-filled collection is likely to be intrauterine gestational sac, even though it is too early to see a yolk sac in the embryo. Now here we can see a yolk sac within the gestational sac. This is a transvaginal image that is performed at the 5 weeks, 6 days. It shows a yolk sac as an echogenic circular structure within the gestational sac, and the yolk sac is the first structure that is identified in the gestational sac of a normal pregnancy. Now here we can see the correct measurement of the mean gestational sac diameter. The gestational sac is measured by positioning the calipers in the inner walls of the sac, and here we can see the calipers are placed in the inner walls, and same as the case here, and it is always measured by obtaining the three orthogonal planes of measurements. The measurements of 1.43 centimeter, 0.82 centimeter, and this one is the 1.55 centimeter are average, resulting in a mean gestational sac diameter of about 1.27 centimeter, which is corresponds to the 6 weeks and 3 days. Sometimes we can see the pseudogestational sac that is secondary to the ectopic pregnancy. This is the longitudinal transvaginal image of the uterus, and it shows a fluid filled collection in the uterine cavity with no yolk sac or the embryo. And this fluid filled collection is a pseudogestational sac, and it is due to the hormonal effects of the ectopic pregnancy on the endometrium rather than the true intrauterine gestational sac. And now here we can see a scar from the prior cesareal section, and it is also identified in the lower uterus. Now in this sonogram we can see a left ovary. This one is the uterus, and this echogenic structure is the endometrial cavity of the uterus. And here we can see this structure is the corpus luteal cyst, and it also contains a rounded lesion with the hypoechoic center, and it is present between the uterus and the left ovary, and this structure is likely to be the ectopic pregnancy. It is consistent with the adnexal ring. Now we are going to discuss the correct measurement of the crown rump length. Here we can see a longitudinal transvaginal image of the embryo, and it shows the incorrect measurement of the CRL. This is due to the yolk sac, which is taking as a head of the fetus, and the caliper is placed including the yolk sac as the head of the fetus. It gives the false measurement, which measures about 1.43 centimeter, corresponding to 7 weeks and the 6 days. And here we can see the longitudinal transvaginal image of the same embryo, and it shows the measurement of the crown rump length after the scan plane has been adjusted to exclude the yolk sac, and the resultant crown rump length measurement of about 1.20 centimeter, which is corresponding to 7 weeks and 3 days. This is the 3 days less than the crown rump length obtained when the yolk sac was incorrectly included in the measurement. Now we are going to discuss the small embryo. This is a transvaginal image of the intrauterine gestational sac. It shows a small echogenic foci along with the abutting yolk sac corresponding to 2 mm measurement of its CRL. This is expected location of the embryo within the uterus, which is identified along the edge of the yolk sac when first visualized. Now here we can see the embryo with the positive cardiac activity. As we can see here, the crysts and troughs that are visualized along this line. These are the features of positive cardiac activity. The embryo cardiac activity should be documented with the M mode imaging, The Doppler should be avoided for documenting the cardiac activity in the first trimester due to the increased ultrasound exposure. Now we are going to discuss the determination of chorionicity and amnionicity during the first trimester. Now in the sonogram, we can see the monochorionic diamniotic twinning. This is the longitudinal transabdominal image of the gravid uterus during the first trimester. It shows a twin pregnancy which is separated by the thin echogenic membrane that is consistent with the monochorionic diamniotic twinning. Now in the sonogram, we can see the dichorionic diamniotic twinning. This is the longitudinal transabdominal image of the gravid uterus in the patient during the first trimester. It shows the twins that are separated by the thick dividing membrane, and it is consistent with the dichorionic diamniotic twinning. The amnionicity and the chorionicity should be documented when multiple gestations are imaged during the first trimester because the membrane thickness is reliable for assigning the chorionicity early in the pregnancy, but it is less reliable later in the pregnancy. Now we are going to discuss the fetal anatomy that is visualized between 11 and the 13 weeks. Now here we can see the transabdominal image of the fetus, and here we can see the head of the fetus. Here these are the upper limbs and these are the lower limbs, and here we can see an ectopic structure that is the urinary bladder of the fetus. Now in the sonogram we can see the same structures. This is the left parasagittal image, and here we can see the head of the fetus, and this one is the spine, but here we can see another anechoic structure that is the stomach bubble that realized on the left parasagittal plane in the left upper quadrant. Now in the sonogram, this one is the axial image of the head of the fetus, and we can see the bilateral echogenic structures are visualized along this axial plane. These echogenic structures are called the choroid plexus that are filling the lateral ventricles. These anechoic structures are the lateral ventricles. Now this is the longitudinal image of the fetus. It shows the upper arm. Here we can see this is the upper arm. These are the radius and the ulna, and here you can see the hand of the fetus which shows multiple digits. And now here we can see the legs of the fetus which is placed side by side. This one is the left leg of the fetus and this one is the right leg of the fetus. And here we can clearly see that this is the thigh of the fetus, and these two echogenic lines are tibia and fibula of the fetus. And here we can see that foot of the fetus that is visualized clearly in the sonogram. Now this is another transverse image of the fetus through the transabdominal region, and here we can see this one is the abdomen of the fetus, and in the sonogram it is clearly visualized the abdominal cord insertion of the fetus. Now we are going to discuss one of the most important parameter that is measured between 11 to 13 weeks of the fetus, which is Nuchal translucency measurement. Now this one is the mid sagittal image of the fetus, and this one is the fetal head, and this one is the upper thorax. This is the neck of the fetus, and this neck is in its normal plane, neither it is flexed nor extend. And now here you can see the appropriate placement of the calipers for the Nuchal translucency measurement with the crossbar that are positioned on the inner borders of the Nuchal line, and it is always perpendicular to the long axis of the fetus. The normal measurement of the Nuchal translucency between 11 to 13 weeks is about 3 mm. Greater than 3 mm leads to the chromosomal abnormalities. Now in the sonogram we can see the increased measurement of the Nuchal translucency, which is about 0.5 centimeter, which is greater than the normal Nuchal translucency, which lies less than the 3 mm. Now we are going to discuss the corpus luteum. The most commonly visualized intra-ovarian region during the first trimester is the corpus luteal cyst. Now this is a transvaginal image of the pelvis in a patient, and it shows the right ovary containing a rounded hypoechoic structure with thick peripheral rim of echogenicity, and it is consistent with the corpus luteum. And the uterus contains a gestational sac without yolk sac that is visualized here. And here this one is the transvaginal image of the pelvis with the color Doppler, and here we can see rim of peripheral blood flow around the corpus luteum, and this rim of peripheral blood flow is the sonographic evidence of corpus luteal system. And in the sonogram, we can also see the gestational sac that is visualized here, and it contains no yolk sac.